Welcome back to the Matt Gerow Show, everybody. It's I, Matt Gerow. We're here for another episode. I know it's been a couple of weeks since we last talked. Apologize for that. Long story short, basically, my wife has a really cool job that requires her to travel out of town. And then when she's back in town, I'm so infatuated with her. I just don't really feel like doing anything else but hanging out with her. So I kind of took a week off while she was in town and basically had a staycation with her. It was amazing. So I've had a really good past 2 weeks. And that's my cat saying hello. Hopefully you heard him. That was Otis. Hopefully he won't be talking too much through this. We may have to pause and remove him. If you're watching on YouTube today, you could see Oscar's in the background and Penny's back there too, but she's doing a little nappy. Hopefully her snoring won't be too loud and caught on here, but there's Otis again. So yeah, back to the Matt Gerow Show with Matt Gerow coming at you. Okay. All right, we are going to pause so I can go move the cat because he's yelling. I'll be right back. All right. Certainly no promises with that coming back, or because I didn't end up putting him away because he's being pretty cute. So we'll see. Anyways, first thing I want to talk about is the most recent thing that's really happened this morning. I had to rewatch the highlights of it because I accidentally slept in, and I'll explain that in a minute too. USA loses to Germany in FIBA basketball. Now, all right, yeah, I got to take care of the cat. I'll be right back. Okay, hopefully no more little cuts like that. I did move him, so we should be good to go, barring these animals allow us. Talking about the dogs. But anyways, USA loses to Germany. So USA is coming off of a recent loss to Lithuania, where we saw in that game, the key to beating the US was rebounding and making your three-pointers. If you can do both of those things, basically you're going to beat the USA. We don't have any really great bigs on our team. They play Paolo Banchero at the 5 a lot, and he's certainly not a center. So basically, if you have a team good enough to beat a small ball lineup, a young small ball lineup at that with our USA team, you can beat us. So it doesn't really bode well for the Olympics next year, 2024 Olympics, but we'll see kind of what happens. Maybe we'll get some better players. Maybe some of these guys will get better because some of them are like fringe type all-stars. When you're looking at Anthony Edwards, Jalen Brunson, Tyrese Halliburton, even Austin Reeves, and Paolo, you would assume these guys are all going to be better basketball players next year, especially after getting this year under their belt. But now I think best we can do for the FIBA Cup is play for third place against Canada, which will be a good game because you'll have basically two teams of NBA players, because the Canadian team is one of the most NBA loaded teams in FIBA this year as well. Also a disappointing season for them because they had high expectations as well. But what can you do? I mean, Germany's obviously got what it takes. You're looking at Dennis Schroeder and his ability to lead that team. It's like he's a whole nother. It's like you have role player, starter, point guard, maybe great 6-man guy, Dennis Schroeder from the NBA. But when he plays for Germany, he's like the best player in FIBA. At least that's how he looks at himself. So, yeah, if you weren't tuning into USA and FIBA, don't worry. Olympics next year will be even more entertaining. It'll get way more coverage. So if you didn't know that was going on, you'll definitely know by next year. Now, back to why I slept in. I slept in because I was up till like 2 a.m. last night, because last night NBA 2K24 was dropped. I had it pre-ordered since like the summer when it was first available for pre-order. And they also had the NBA League Pass available through that too. If you can see, my dog Oscar is he's burrowing behind me, so you might hear some strange sounds. That's what that is. Moving on though. 2K24, it is amazing. I have it for the PS5. I've only played one Play Now game, which was pretty fun, and I've done some of my career. I'm excited to get into the My NBA stuff because they've added some new things with the NBA eras. What I mean by that is they have like a LeBron era and they have like a Kobe era, and basically like these are new settings you can put on your NBA franchise modes. So yeah, I'm excited to get into that and check all of that out as well. Next thing I have here is the Lions and the Chiefs game. The first NFL game of the season happened on Thursday night. It was a really good game. I watched the whole thing. In my fantasy league, I didn't have any players on my team starting playing. But my opponent did have one player on his team starting playing, and that was Amon-Ra St. Brown, for the Detroit Lions, and he went off, unfortunately. Even though they didn't score that many points to the Lions, they went all through him. So he ended up with like 19 fantasy points. So now it's not looking too good for week 1. It's only been one player, though. The rest of his guys might not be any good. All my guys might go off. You never know. But that's just a little interesting start to the season, because obviously everyone's picking the Chiefs to win. I have the Chiefs -4 to win that. And they end up losing right at the very end of the game. And you have to wonder, well, what was the reason for that? If you did watch the game, the Lions, sure, they were not a passing threat. They have passing threats on the team when you think of Amon-Ra St. Brown, and you look at what Marvin Jones Jr. is able to do for them. Sorry if you're able to hear the dogs fighting in the background. Definitely apologize for that. Try to curb that a little bit. 1 second. But the thing that the Lions did really well to win that game was their run game. They were able to get 5, 6, 7 chunks of yards. They were able to get some big yardage runs, and they got a lot of first downs off of run. And that's great for your team because it gives your defense a break. Lets your offense stay on the field longer. And, defenses hate playing against Patrick Mahomes. What the Chiefs have going for them so well, besides the fact that they have Patrick Mahomes, is they actually protected him pretty well. There were many, many times in that game where Mahomes was able to sit in the pocket for a long time and wait until someone got open, and then he'd be able to get like 10 yards here or there. And then there were also times where Mahomes was using his legs. It seemed kind of like, I don't know, maybe the Chiefs overlooked the Lions a little bit in this game. Maybe the fact that the Chiefs were down Travis Kelce and Chris Jones, maybe that has to do with why they lost. Maybe it would have been a blowout otherwise. You had those two guys in, but I'll say this: the expectation for Mahomes to be perfect every single game is not fair, and obviously that's not going to work out in every short-term situation. In the long term, he's going to be great for your franchise, but to expect him to take care of everything and not have other guys step up, that's going to be a problem. They did have some guys step up. I really liked what Pacheco did for him. I think his name is Skylar Thompson, the wide receiver. I'm not sure. He got in there a couple times, but they're definitely missing Travis Kelce, and Noah Gray, their tight end, was really good, and Blake Bell. But it's got me excited for the rest of the NFL weekend. I haven't been too tuned into football because of all the basketball stuff going on, but I definitely will be after this first game. And most importantly, I'll be looking forward to Sunday night, Cowboys Giants, where I'm honestly kind of worried that we're going to get embarrassed maybe by the Giants, but we'll see. I'm hopeful. They don't play us very well in the past, but like I said, expecting perfection from a human being like Patrick Mahomes every game, that might work well in the long term, but in the short run where it's like, we need to win this one right here, sometimes it's better to have a bunch of guys who can contribute versus the one guy you rely on to do everything. So yeah, be looking forward into that. I'll definitely let you guys know how my fantasy team shapes out next week too, after the week is over. But it's not looking good. We'll see. 2 more things to talk about on the podcast. We're just flying through topics today. This has to do with UFOs. So the AARO division, which I can't remember everything that stands for. It's something like air anomalous something. They're the UAP task force, basically, under the Department of Defense. Here recently, they were moved to being under the Secretary of Defense, the Deputy Secretary of Defense, I believe. Her name's Kathleen Hicks. She basically got the ball rolling on a AARO website, which was promised about a year ago. Whenever they had their very first little AARO like hearing or presentation. The website is pretty shit. I don't know if anyone here has been on it. It's AARO.mil. The .mil, I believe, is like a military government website thing. But yeah, I mean, we have like a real website that talks about the government's tracking and what the classified information they have about UFOs. So I don't know how much more real it can get for anyone who doesn't believe this is happening. The literal government The military government has created a website where they are putting all their declassified information about UFOs. There are UFO videos on there that they've put, not anything crazy, but some stuff, interesting stuff. And there's just kind of like public facts about it. So it's not like, ooh, top secret stuff, but it definitely makes it more real. At least to me. That being said, though, they didn't put a lot of work into this website. They definitely put it together in like a couple days. It looks like your typical WordPress, like high schooler website. It's got like a mission statement and like some links. There's no way to report anything on there. That's coming soon, supposedly. If you're in the military, it says on there to report through some special adjudication or whatever, some special like process that you have to, a person or a commanding officer you have to talk to report your UFOs. For commercial pilots, they have a thing on there that says you need to contact the FAA or air traffic control, basically, and make your reports there. But no phone number, no email address, no submittable form online. I don't know if that's coming or if that's because they don't want to hear what the public is seeing. Maybe they already know. Probably they do. But it's been interesting. Validating as well, because I've talked about this around some people, and some people happily will talk about it with me. Some people just, I feel like, act like I didn't even say it because they don't want to consider it being a thing, or they're looking at me as like some kind of crazy person. Hard to say though. So yeah, if you haven't been to it, AARO.mil, go look at it for a little bit. It works on mobile phone too, just fine. And as long as it keeps getting hits and people keep visiting it, they're going to know that we have public interest in this issue. On the government side of things, not a lot of movement. We're still waiting to see what happens with the Mexican hearing going on later. They have like 7 speakers now on what will come out of that. And then we're still waiting to see the Inspector Attorney General respond to that letter penned by Representative Burchett and his committee, the Oversight Committee. And that's, I think the due date for that was September 26th. That is September 26th, not was, sorry. So that means we may not hear about that until the end of the month, unfortunately. But I'm still watching the news. I'm staying plugged in. I'm keeping an eye on Twitter. I'm staying on Reddit. I'm learning about all kinds of interesting stuff. Here lately, I've been learning a lot about orbs of light that people see around. That may be alien related, may just be paranormal related. I don't know. It's very interesting. But that's basically, orbs of light are seen by basically every culture through every decade. My dog wants me to let go of the other dog because they were fighting and they want to keep fighting. So yeah. Also, the orbs of light, like they're just well known. You can Google and find all kinds of stories from people through in every place through every time. The other thing I've been learning about is like how a virus could technically be alien. It's not like a form of life matter. Viruses don't have DNA. They have an RNA, which allows them to become a part of the sequence of DNA and change our DNA. I was listening to a podcast called Patterns Tell Stories, really great UFO podcast. They were talking about a study that suggested that our human genome is actually made up of like 40 to 80% of it could be made up of ancient viruses that have just developed our DNA over time. Gonna take a quick pause to break up this dogfight and then finish this out for you. All right, he's gonna help me finish out this podcast. So yeah, and for those who are listening on audio, I've got my dog up on the camera now. So yeah, it's interesting to see like the different forms that aliens technically could come in, and how basically like they could be a virus and they could be using us and our DNA to survive. Maybe their bodies and whatever they had in some other civilization just isn't making the cut anymore, and so it's important for them to survive on through us. And maybe it's multiple different species of aliens. That's why we have different competing viruses. Now, I'm not trying to say COVID is an alien virus. That's like a whole separate thing. I'm just talking about throughout history, like the Black Plague and there are different events throughout history where our human population got down to really small numbers, and maybe that has something to do with it. So, but maybe it also has something to do with why we were able to come out of that and survive longer than like the Neanderthals and other Homo sapien type of humanity. So yeah. The last thing I want to close with is some movies that I've been watching. I watched Interstellar. Amazing. Haven't been able to stop thinking about it since I watched it. I've been watching the Alien Predator movies in chronological order, which is really interesting. And yeah, I think that's basically what I've been on. I've been on kind of a space movie kick a little bit here. Been enjoying it. Definitely recommend both of those movies. So yeah, I kind of thought we'd have a lot to talk about, but I think I talked pretty fast and getting through all the topics. I was pretty excited to come back to the podcast today and share with you guys. So hopefully you got a good check-in from me, some good information, some good nuggets here. Next week, it'll probably be a longer, more in-depth one, especially after we get through that first weekend of football. I'll have a lot to talk about. So thank you guys so much for listening. Oscar says, come back and listen to the next one. And you guys have a freaking fantastic, awesome day. Thanks.